Across the UK, online and on DAB digital radio. Weekend Breakfast with Penny Smith on Talk Radio.
Yeah, the time is, well, it's only a whisker after I told you what the time is earlier on when I said I've got a moderately sad face on in terms of the rugby. And we've been joined in the studio by Dan Olsen, who's an international award-winning singer, songwriter and producer. And good morning to you, Dan.
Good morning.
And you are from the Faroe Islands, and I'm afraid I had to do a little kind of search. There's this kind of search engine, it's quite remarkable. And I had to find out exactly where the Faroe Islands was. I for some reason, I thought they were a bit more easterly. But you're a bit more westerly, aren't you?
A lot of people, when they hear it, they think it's in Portugal because there's a city called Faro. And then there's some people that go all the way to Egypt because of the Faroes.
Oh, the Faroes, as it were. Yeah, the Faroes. Yeah. Well, no, I was thinking you were a bit more, a bit closer to Denmark, but no, you're a bit more. You're a bit closer to, well, sort of Iceland.
Iceland, right between Iceland and Scotland.
Right between Iceland and Scotland.
Yeah.
And how do you? Sorry, I know we will talk about your music in a moment, but I just think it's fascinating because I've never met anybody from the Faroe Islands before. How many people are on there?
You're not really supposed to meet anyone from there because it's so small. It's only 50,000 people.
50,000 people.
50,000,
so you presumably you know all of them. So if I say,
you would assume that, yeah. But it's like spread out into like these small islands. So you have different communities, you have different accents and all that.
Mm-hmm. And you speak Faroese, which is a Nordic language.
Nordic language. When you hear it, if you've heard Icelandic before, it sounds very similar. But it's its own because of the isolation. So it's just developed into its own thing.
So in Norwegian, takk for fisken means thank you for the fish.
Nice one.
Thank you. Happy to help. What would you...
You need a little bit more than that if you're going to survive a couple of days there.
Ekorn, that means ekorn is a squirrel. What would thanks for the fish in the Faroe Islands be?
Takk fyrir fisken.
Takk for the fisken.
Singular, isn't it?
Right, it is. The fisken. So it is, as you say,
Thanks.
it's a bit more of a mixture. Well, are we doing all right here?
Yeah, you're smashing it.
Crushing the accents here.
And therefore, because there's only 50,000 of you, obviously you all cling to various rocks in the North Sea where presumably you get mountainous seas and all sorts of terrible weather along with glorious, you get the northern lights and you get the aurora borealis, you get all that beauty.
We get a bit of that. Not as much as in Iceland because it's further up north, but we do have a bit of that. Like you say, the weather isn't anything to promote here, but the scenery definitely is.
The scenery must be staggering. Meanwhile, you started out playing classical guitar, and was that when you were in the Faroe Islands, or was that after?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, from when I was around 12 years old.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And when did you leave the Faroe Islands, by the way?
I left them when I was 19 to study in Copenhagen, in Denmark. And then I moved back, and then I went to Australia. I think I just had enough of the Faroe Islands. And,
you just had enough of the cold?
I feel a bit enclosed in there. And so when I was in Australia, I finished my degree, and then I started doing music and playing gigs on the weekends, which then led to doing songwriting. And then I moved to Sydney, just doing music. And I felt maybe Sydney would prepare me for a big city like London, which it didn't really.
Well, the weather is probably a bit more like is it pronounced the Faroe Islands, is it?
Yeah.
A Faroe. So the weather at least is a little more like the Faroe Islands, whereas, of course, Sydney is just a slightly relentless sun.
That's it. But I hear people complain about the weather in London, but for me, I guess my standard is so low, but I think it's really good in general.
Well, we complain about everything, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that was where you finished your university degree, and then you started performing live music. And you played in bars and pubs and did a little bit of sofa surfing. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah, you could call it that.
When did you get a bit of a breakthrough then?
I don't know if you can call it a breakthrough at all, but I think it's grown gradually, with my fan base and everything. So when
you won Best Song in an international songwriting competition, and you've co-written
cool.
with multiple award-winning songwriters, and some of your songs are being played in films. So you're doing all right.
I'm not complaining. I think when I moved to London, that was a good career move because it was tough because there's so many musicians and the quality is so good. Mm-hmm. But I've met my manager here and all these co-writers as well, and one thing led to another.
And so you're playing live in London? Are there some gigs that we can go and see?
Yeah, I just had one this week. Next one coming up should be at the Ned. I think it's on the 16th
Which is
of
where?
November.
Where's that?
Somewhere in London.
Somewhere in London, I like
remember the
that.
address.
Organised by somebody
we'll
else.
put it on the website.
And what would you say? We're having slight issues actually. We're trying to play. We've got Still Be Gone. We hope, but we're having issues for some reason. It's one of those days. It must be the weather. It's been awfully wet. It's probably something got into the mechanics. So we are hoping to play Still Be Gone. But what do your songs as a singer-songwriter, what do you mostly base your songs on? Is it something that's happened to you, or is it some other things around you? Is it about the natural world, or all of those, all of the above? Yeah,
I think it would probably mostly be about my relationships and that kind of stuff. I think most songwriters, when they start out, it's about love and relationships. That's the easiest thing to write about, and easiest for listeners to relate to as well. There are some songs that are about other stuff, but it's mostly about my own life.
Mm-hmm. And who have you been influenced by?
Oh, I would say the main one that really got me into songwriting was Jack Johnson I think he's from Hawaii, the States. And
it's very good.
Yeah.
I'd say very much in the folk singing.
Yes, and the acoustic guitar is very much the main instrument.
And is there a sort of a Faroe Islands kind of musical culture that's folk music?
Yes, very much so. It's a bit like when you hear some of the Icelandic music, which seems a bit dark but very sort of artistic. We have a lot of that in the Faroe Islands, but then we have some folk singer-songwriters as well, which I gravitate more towards, and that have inspired my songwriting as well. There's another one called Tater, who's done really well internationally. You might not know of him, but he's a big inspiration as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you sing any of them in Faroese?
No, not yet. Every time I sit down and I think I should write a Faroese song, I go, wait, I probably should write an English song first. I feel like once I've sort of, I got my whole thing sorted out for me career-wise, then I think I would have time for it. But now I've been talking to my publisher and they go, you should write a song in Faroese because that could fit anything. Yeah. Because you don't understand the language, but it would be a cool vibe, like something exotic. They do that sometimes with Icelandic music, I think. Well,
you see, funny enough, because I like world music, and many years ago, the first piece of Nordic music was Mary Pers Boynton. I don't know if you know her, but she's got this very beautiful, haunting voice. And for some reason, every time I used to listen to it, it made me think of Arctic, the Arctic scenery. And there is something about languages. I don't know whether it's the way that it goes, but there is something about Icelandic languages that just make you think of the north.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I tell you what, we have, I think, got some music we can now play.
Brilliant.
What does it really matter? Why do I even care? I think you dropped your troubles, baby, when you disappeared. I finally washed the dishes, then something caught my eye. You left your ring on the windowsill. Is that how you say goodbye? All these little pieces scattered all around. Even your empty dress carries the perfume you had on. How can you my heart a mess and still be gone? I got a box from the basement, I'm gonna fill it up. As soon as I know where you're living now, I'm sending you all this stuff. All these little pieces.
That is a sad song, Dan. Still Be Gone. And did somebody genuinely do that? Just leave the ring and that was their goodbye? Or something like that?
Yeah.
I'm astounded as Dan is so good looking. Like, who would do that? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
But it's not like I'm bitter about it. Oh my God, this is gonna sound cheesy either way I put it, but it's like you put it into a song and that's it. And I think in the chorus is that I'm happy you found where you belong. You know, it's all for the better. So
at the time, though, not perhaps not. And that's the thing. Yeah. While we were listening to that, Grant, you were saying very much you could hear the Jack Johnson influence there.
It was a really, really lovely vibe there, and it's kind of you can hear how he's influenced you. But I think it's a great, very emotional. Very emotional.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. So you're still writing and still travelling, still touring. How can people find out your music? It's Olsen, by the way, Olson.
E-N.
Oh, E-N. It is E-N. Oh, for goodness sake. Do you know what? I've got it spelt both ways in front of me. That doesn't help, does it?
There you go.
Yeah. Well, you see, you can't tell on the radio whether I'm saying it with an E or an O. Just saying. Olsen. So it's Olsen. So how can they find out about you?
So everything social media wise would be Dan Olsen Music, and website is danolsenmusic.com, and on Spotify just type in Dan Olsen or wherever you listen to your music. And
have you gone on to have a lovely relationship since the person who left their ring on the window?
We're taking it step by step.
Step by step, marvellous. Yeah. Phew, it's a sort of happy end. It's a happy ending.
I thought you were making a move there, to be honest.
Thanks, Grant. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much for coming in, and I'm glad we finally were able to play out that lovely piece of music, Still Be Gone by Dan Olsen. And the time is 9:38. You're listening to Penny Smith on Talk Radio with the Times. Be well informed.